damage. And you thought you protected the Gnar pick.
Whoa.
You thought you protected the Gnar pick. You banned the Renekton. You take away Doran's Fiora. And Gen G are going to play around topside again. They are going to look to punish Klid and Kingen again. We have seen so many teams find an angle. And we saw the Irelia mid just yesterday. You have Cassante, you have Irelia who looks to get pressure here in mid. It can help play around that topside. Yeah, you thought, okay, we got the Cassante pick out. We're safe here. It's a Gnar pick coming through. It's not going to be a lane swap, but there is so much power in a side lane for Chovy here with this Maokai pick. Maokai protects deep side laning champions. So that's one of the weaknesses of these Cassante comps. They don't have the same ability to side lane and put pressure on turrets when you get to the mid to late game. But you have an Irelia mid here, and yes, you absolutely can put that pressure on. Lack of magic damage here, but who's building MR in this composition for Hanwha Life Esports? Not a lot of great options. Yeah, Klid can tank some of the damage, obviously, in the front line with the Sejuani, but you're playing Gnar top. It's going to be very difficult here, I think, in the mid game from behind for Hanwha Life Esports to play the game.
Yeah, I think they have enough magic damage. You know, they got the Maokai, they got the Heimerdinger, so I think it's a actually perfect spot to pick it up. I think Chovy probably watched the games yesterday and saw Closer just absolutely stomp on this pick, and he's like, well, I'm Chovy, so like, of course I can do this. And you know, he's got a big smile on his face. I know that mid laners love to play this champion, and I think it's just a perfect spot for it. And I think, you know, Gen G's just one step ahead of the meta by going for something like this. They are watching what other teams are doing. I think it's a great spot to put on some pressure and punish some of those players, some of those champions that do not have the escapes. As guys, we're jumping onto the Rift all ready for game one.
Closer yesterday, Valdez, man, he showed everyone the Irelia's relevance right now in this meta.
Yeah, with one game.
One game.
And it was bro, but I still think that, you know, Closer was kind of given like way too much space to kind of do whatever he wanted, but, you know, it was against bro. I think that Chovy can absolutely put on a lot of pressure with this pick.
I'm really liking how Gen G has looked at Hanwha Life Esports' game plan and how commonly we've seen this style of King and Gnar and Klid Sejuani in the top side and said, there's another way to attack this. Not as early as we've seen in the past, obviously with those bans towards Peanut. The entire draft for Hanwha Life has basically seemed like it's designed to protect Kingen. And yes, to a certain extent, Viper and Life here on the bottom side with this Ashe Varus, but taking away all those aggressive Peanut jungle champions, then taking away Doran's Fiora and Renekton, saying, we want to play Gnar, that is what we are going to do, and it's going to be safe and it's going to be fine. I think it's just kind of turned on its head quite significantly by this pickup of the Irelia here late in the draft for Chovy. And that's another thing that Red Side can afford you, which is why I'm surprised Hanwha Life didn't prioritize Red Side here with side selection going into game one, especially when we consider they're taking all of their wins on Red Side this season.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see, as Viper did go for the Comet here. Looks like he will be playing the lethality version of this Varus. Not too surprising. I think, you know, you're not going to be surviving very long in melee range against a lot of the Gen G picks, although you could, you know, on another slate, you could say, hey, they're going to be in melee range very often. But I think this is a better choice, just to stay away, and it's going to allow them to be extremely annoying in the lane, especially, which is where they're going to find a lot of priority, as Peanut got a leash. He was down here pretty quickly, but Life with their priority, you know, just helping leash the Gromp a little bit there for Peanut. Thank you very much, as Peanut. But yeah, going to be pretty annoying to have that much priority on the bottom side.
Now, Zeka's laning the early parts of this Victor matchup extremely well, putting on the pressure with his E, and just kind of pushing Chovy repeatedly here with it, as you see here, using the Airy proc basically on cooldown to make sure that Chovy's under a lot of pressure. Klid utilizing this pressure extremely well, and we've seen Klid have a lot of problems actually in the early game in Sejuani matchups. Not as much the Maokai one as the Wukong, but he's actually utilizing that mid prio right now with the bottom side prio here to put pressure on Peanut. So good start for him here in this game. Not sitting back and watching, definitely getting involved early.
Yeah, it's really good to see. I mean, when you have priority in mid and bot this much, it's you can kind of just do whatever you want. And note that good is like, hey, I'm here, I'm in mid lane, and now I'm going to go top. Both scuttles will be mine, is what he's trying to declare here. As top lane, it looks like Doran is actually coming down and being kind of annoying. Don't think he's going to be able to stop the scuttle take, but just going to spot the Sejuani. This is a pretty good look for Hanwha Life Esports, at least early on. It's definitely what you want with a comp like this.
Yeah, certainly. Zeka actually doesn't complete it, wants to bait Chovy in. Chovy being super greedy here and will now just back away. But I love how he's been laning this, the way he placed his gravity field just moments ago, so he could actually force Chovy to step in it to get the last hit or take a bunch of trades moving right around the turret. And I say trades, he's not trading back, he's taking a bunch of hits, a bunch of poke, a bunch of autos. Chovy will teleport back to lane now here.
Looks like he picked up a Doran's Blade and a refillable. Definitely a couple of laning items to help him through this rough stage of the matchup.
Top side here, we haven't seen Peanut have the same power early here to give Doran some agency in this matchup. It's a matchup that's been tough, obviously, for the K'Sante to get kills in. He's more useful, and we often see K'Sante kills under his own turret because he can charge someone back, then ult them. As not a lot of action top side in this matchup just yet, but I think that is going to come online later. And bottom side.
Here we go. It is the patented Peanut flash over the wall. He is looking for life. He's just going to go for Viper, and they get back in time. And you can see that Peanut did not want to advance onto life because he knew he had his flash available, and he would just die because he would be stuck under the turret. So definitely a good look for Peanut. You know, a nice gank. He did get a bunch of summoners out of the Hanwha Life Esports bottom lane.
That makes follow-up pushes like the one we were seeing there bottom side a lot tougher. Starting putting the pressure on here, but again, no resources given to him this game around on the Maokai thus far. Now Maokai flashless himself, so there's a little bit of an extra leash in that regard here for the side of Viper and Life, as long as they keep that river warded. And this mid lane here, Chovy, I think, is handling the pressure extremely well. He's actually found himself he's found himself a CS lead here.
I don't know how that's possible, to be honest. I mean, still very early, but like, generally melee matchups will not. I mean, Aurelia is relatively easy as a champion to last hit, obviously, with the way her Q works. So that is one reason, but it's not an easy lane to survive in. Might fall a little bit behind, does not have any more refillable stacks, and does not have teleport at this time, but he is dealing with the pressure very well.
Yeah, this is without Peanut's help, realistically here too. So it's just farming under turret.
Yeah, a lot of champs that get pushed in, they just don't farm under turret very well, but Aurelia is like 10 out of 10 at doing it.
He's even going to grab the fruit here too. He's just getting any sort of sustain he can. He's got the Doran's Blade.
So free.
Yeah, it's just these slight, small things going to help him get through the hardest part of his Aurelia game here. Going to come on later. Denying a back.
Look at where the lane is too. Zeka's like, well, I'm just going to have to back late. Not much I can do about that. It's a cannon wave, so it should be okay.
Tracking Clid with a Hawk Shot. Notice that one coming out from Life. Or rather, tracking Peanut, excuse me, with that Hawk Shot, so they know where the Maokai is at this moment in time. Very important information for this Victor returning to lane. And do see the pathing topside now for Clid. This has been a very slow early game here, despite the Varus pressure in the bottom side. And, you know, with those flashes down, or rather those Ghost and Cleanse down, and Flash for Life, as we mentioned earlier, they aren't going to be putting that much pressure on here until level 6. Playing it slow.
Yeah, we're just kind of hanging out. Just waiting for someone to make a move. And, you know, in terms of who that is going to help, I think the scaling will be kind of interesting to watch. You know, what you mentioned before about the side lane pressure of Chovy, I think is the biggest thing. You know, like the scaling seems relatively even, especially because the Varus is going for lethality rather than on-hit builds. But will come down to the side laning, I think. It's Viper might be in a little bit of trouble. They're actually going for life here as he does not have flash. He's just going to get sniped and killed, and we do have flash here for Viper, but he's just not even going to use it. He's like, well, I'm dead anyway. Let's just accept it, and that is a free double kill over to the side of FaZe. It's what you talked about before, the follow-up gank. Just very simple and straightforward here for Gen G.
Now they're trying to grab this Herald at least. Clid is alone on the top side of the map. Gen G definitely aware of it. And, you know, it's going to be a trade of 2 kills to a Jhin here in the early game into a Varus Ashe lane versus a plate setup for Hanwha Life that's kind of realistically only going to be droppable in mid for free. You're going to need a lot more resources to put it elsewhere, as this was kind of greedy for Peanut here, and he will be denied. Thanks for the leash. For now, Chovy trying to get in there.
Yeah, I mean, they can't really deny him from getting in range to smite. He does not have a smite, though. Peanut does not have smite, so he's just going to walk away awkwardly. He's like, okay, all right, you can get the double objective.
It's pretty shocking that they actually commit Kingen, who's teleportless, to walk this far down the lane, or away from his lane because of this, as we're going to go back to this gang. Angle here really good on Peanut's Nature's Grasp. Going to be able to catch both. They go for life first. He's flashless, and then Peanut gets the root here with the twisted advantage. There's nothing you can do as Viper. You're just too far up the lane. That ultimate from Peanut is perfectly angled, and you're doomed without those summoners.
그러니까 완벽하잖아, 그냥.
I am perfect.
난 욕먹을게.
It was perfect. I mean, as we were saying, even in the cast, it's like, well, they couldn't have done it any better.
So during this Drake contest, quote unquote, where Peanut stood nearby and Chovy kind of walked over. Okay, hold on.
We're going to get onto pace here, but he does have cleanse, and now
you're way up in the lane again. Peanut's got ult.
Yeah,
I've seen this one before.
Oh, wait, are we just rolling back the same clip? They both have flash, though. So this time it will be a bit different. Very nice harass, at least you could say, and a couple of the summoners will be burned. Just not the flashes. No flashes,
very critical here, and FaZe does lose his cleanse, but much less significant here considering how this lane is being played out. So now Chovy wants to put some pressure on this Victor with Catalyst up. You have to be so careful about how much you do that.
Yeah.
But Kingen rotate away. I keep trying to go back to this point because he lost a significant amount of farm, but what he really lost is 3 turret plates. Cassante is super accelerated because of a fake contest, I want to call it almost here for Gen G on Drake, that Kingen felt pressured to come down for, and he's finding himself significantly behind as a result. As Chovy is just going to push it. Yeah, because they didn't actually want to contest Drake, and they couldn't contest Drake, and their bot duo wasn't even there, and Kingen just walked down the lane, and that's a lot of money over to a Cassante here for realistically no reason.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Cassantes actually just pick up pretty straightforward solo kills here in the LCK recently, especially in the last couple of days. It just feels like the Cassante, even if it doesn't get accelerated, has a lot of opportunities to go for this. It's going to be more difficult against the Gnar just because of spacing, but especially the Jax picks.
Jax especially.
I have not been a fan of. I mean, the laning phase for Jax is it's not going to be strong, but still has not been feeling good against the Cassante. Again, the Gnar should be feeling pretty good. As Chovy, he's got a Vampiric Scepter. He is actually just chilling. It's just hardcore chilling here in the mid lane. Does not care at all.
There's an angle.
There's the angle. Peanut's like, wait, are we doing this? He was like just backing. It's like he wasn't even ready for it as Peanut just stands in front of Doran. He's like, you're not going to ult him. But Clid still goes for it anyway. We are going to have the Rift Herald dropped in the top lane.
Yeah. If there was a ad for like therapy for top jungler misalignment, you know, like if there was an ad for a therapy session, like are your top and jungle on your team just not on the same page? There would be a screenshot of that right there. Both the top and jungle's just not quite on the same page, but they will go ahead and grab plate gold here for Kingen. Not going to be dropped in the mid lane where there was a lot of pressure there on Chovy earlier. Just hasn't had the same control. So going to get some value out of this top side here with this weird exchange that did happen where Doran and Peanut couldn't collapse as easily. And it's really only Clid in the jungle, actually, that has a lead. Chovy just trying to get some harass off here with full Surge.
Yeah, the thing about the counterpick Aurelia is that, you know, you saw even though, quote-unquote, the range matchup is going to be really nice for Zeka and he's going to be able to harass, it's so hard to push an Aurelia out of lane. And Chovy really did show that off with flying colors. Now he does have a Bork, and now he's going to be actually getting in the face of Zeka. It's going to be more difficult for Zeka now to farm at this stage of the mid lane. And now the priority can go to the side of Chovy, especially if he gets a little bit of health, because the kill pressure is so high, which is not necessarily what you see all the time in the mid lane. But it's really cool to see Aurelia back in the meta and to see this kill pressure.
Zeka really trading it back, dodging this stun. Chovy has to be really careful with these flashy plays, because one misstep and, you know, take 2 Qs and an extra E, and suddenly Zeka can actually ult you and kill you too. Have to be respectful. You don't have any minions to dash back to sometimes, and was a great start to that trade, but he actually does lose out in the end. We'll have to catch this wave.
I think it definitely depends on who's there. As speaking of which, a lot of players here for HLE Esports, and this time Chovy does have to be respectful, as he did not have any ward coverage, and the ult from Life is what is going to put the nail in the coffin.
Really great play from HLE Esports. Zeka communicating as well where Chovy is on the lane. I've pushed him out. We want to do this Drake. It's spawning. Let's go ahead and look for a pick here mid. If the arrow hits, we go. The arrow hits, they go. They grab a kill, and they're going to take this Drake down. And good start here for HLE Esports in terms of objectives. Will be 2 Drakes in the lead. What soul we get will actually determine. No, don't say about this.
It's going to be Chemtech.
What soul we get determines how valuable this is what I was going to say.
There it is.
And Valdez.
I didn't have a doubt in my mind. After seeing yesterday, I'm like, yeah, the code's been it's been rigged. We're getting more Chemtech here in the LCK
Man,
this week.
The Riot coders are doing the big numbers for Chemtech Soul just because they reworked it. I'm like, no, it's not strong. Don't do it. Okay.
It was a pretty late flash from Delayed. It felt like frame perfect, but he is going to get away from that one. Did have to blow both summoners, as that is the pick power of the Varus.
Yeah, the Heimerdinger is very vulnerable in this comp. We talked about it a lot when it was picked up in the draft, especially in the first 3 picks when we had the Sejuani, right? The Ashe Varus. But you can be quick on your fingers and get out of those situations, you know. You're still punished, but have to be very careful with trying to set up around these objectives, especially once they're already gone. Where you are, and clearing vision can be quite complicated. As this is the arrow play. Clid was already rotated up. The wave being in a good place means Chovy can't see Clid there until it's too late, even though Peanut's nearby. He felt pretty safe, but it's really nice response there from HLE.
I think you're right. Like, I think they knew that Ashe was mid as well, because the Hawk shot was thrown directly at Delight. So that could be like a slight miscommunication error, or maybe a mistake from Chovy to not react to the information. It's like, okay, Ashe is mid. She's probably going to throw an arrow at you. He had flash. He could have just flashed away. But instead, Chovy's like, no, I'm fine. I'm good. You know, maybe I'll survive, right? Just throws up his W, and then he dies. So maybe a little bit of overconfidence, maybe a little bit of a miscommunication issue. Either way, a nice setup from HLE.
I do like the pick here of items, or rather of item, of Mythic for Doran. He goes for the Jackshow build this time around because they have a 2 melee front line where there's an Maokai to set them up. And Jin, again, utility in this draft, not going to be carrying a lot of the damage, having some extra survivability, making sure that you can use that. Yeah.
That's the Jin. But look at Peanut, he's just there. He's just soaking everything for the Jin. And there was not a hard commit here from the side of HLE Esports, as there were only the 3 of them. They will be at least successful in pushing them back.
Well, what I was going to say about this item is it allows them to sit up in the front line and really tank that damage, do a lot, threaten the back line, threaten this Victor, threaten the Gnar, of course, even on a flank angle. Can be quite critical when the Gnar is trying to get that Gnar bar online to 5v5 fight. Doran took out the entire turret this game. Doran's laning has been amazing. Like I said, Peanut, highest jungle proximity in the league for top, but still, this time doing it all alone, essentially, and making this Cassante pick very strong, grabbing that whole turret, and making value out of nothing, basically, in this game. And we haven't been looking at it, but I just want to give him credit. As here comes another gank.
Okay, the wave is going to be cleared very nicely from Zeka. That's going to give them a great chance to survive, as the arrow did come through as well, and Gen G are totally stopped here on the dive. So HLE Esports a great response. What at first I thought they didn't see coming. They were very prepared for that. Now we have a follow-up fight here. Jovi is going in. He's kind of low on health. That's fine because he's got so much support from the river. Life just running away as the Pays shots ring true from the river.
Lid.
Because now he's just going to flash in. That's a free piggy kill. Jovi gets the double. And he's looking for a little bit more, but Life is going to back away. And like you said, Wolf, what are they going to do about this Aurelia?
Yeah, I mean,
they don't have an answer.
It's a problem too, and it looks good from the outset of that exchange for Hanwha Life because Chovi's taken so much damage, but he's just so mobile. He has his Blade of the Ruin King, and he's got a lot of minions to operate around here, and he's next to a Victor. Once again.
Okay, this is actually a 2v1 as Pays is just dead. Very far up the lane, he was just backing there. That was kind of confusing, and Hanwha Life will take the free kill.
No turret to suck up those minions, but no one to catch them either. Delight, it looks like he's going to be trying to hold that wave mid, so pretty rookie mistake, let's say, here. As look at Chovi's health, feels like, okay, we can push up. We have a lot of support here. We've got Clid, we've got Life, but there's a disjointed communication between Clid, Life, and Zeka. Zeka's actually trying to make a solo kill play here onto Chovi. He's trying to push him back and hoping that support's for him, so he can actually push Chovi back. The rest of his support is so far away. And Chovi's like, I've got minions here, I'm going to dash them, I'm going to get on top of you, I'm going to make a double kill happen here. And Clid just kind of sits back and watches, then dies without ulting. And yeah, this is just great.
Yeah, I thought he was backing, but actually he's just like,
he's really
so far up the lane. Yeah, definitely a little bit of a rookie mistake there. Maybe it works in challengers. It's okay, Pays. You'll get it. You'll get it. We have faith. As now Genji are going to go ahead and actually commit on this Drake. As Kingen, he is going to hit Meganar.
Yeah, and he does a lot of damage to Delight at the same time. There is no Kasante in this fight. Doran's going to have to TP in. He does have that teleport and Gargoyle Stoneplate. Hanwha Life Esports, I think, really should look to collapse here and punish now. The Drake, not really the most important target. Winning this fight before Doran gets there is more critical.
Well, they're not going to be able to force it, as Kingen as well has been pushed away. The flank angles from Gnar have been kind of middling. It feels like sometimes they work, sometimes you're just kind of left alone, but Genji, either way, not going to deal with that. Just going to push that away as the ult will come out here. A couple ults thrown in from Clid as well. Kingen's got a really nice angle from the top side, but they're just going to collapse onto him as the spread is fantastic from Genji. Clid's just left with nothing to ult, as the smite will ring true here from Peanut, as will the shots from Pays on the backside. Doran is very tanky already, as lethality is not doing much to the amount of armor that he has stacked already.
Yeah, that was a really clean Drake take from Genji, and there was a window where they could have forced Doran's teleport earlier by trying to force a fight, because they have Crystal Arrow, they have Chains of Corruption, there's so many tools in this comp with the Sejuani ult as well, to try to force a fight. Look for a pick on Delight, look for the front line, and force that TP faster, or look to push Chovy back, force him to engage earlier. But they waited so long that Genji got to just say, we're taking the Drake, push it down early, use Peanut's ultimate to secure it, and then Hanwha Life can't collapse in after that. They take a turret right afterwards as well. Peanut coming in here for the steal. It's coming up all Genji right now.
Yeah, and they don't have a massively, but a lot of the problems we address in the draft are certainly going to start becoming a big problem for Hanwha Life Esports, as this fight is, you know, Peanut eats a lot of the ults in the front. The positioning from Genji was really the biggest thing that stood out to me.
3 control wards, one at the entrance, one at the center, one in the pit. There's no vision for Hanwha Life Esports to actually set up the arrow the way they want to, set up the Clid ult. He has to step so far forward here. Kingen's like, we have a timer, I have this Narbar only so long. And once they have these 3 control wards here with the Heimerdinger turrets, breaking the line becomes nigh impossible for Hanwha Life. They needed to act faster, they did not. And once that line is set, Genji start Drake, gets into smite range, Peanut ults. Just elementary, really, the way that they played it out. Just punishing Hanwha Life for a little bit of slow play here. But I'm going to be honest with you, Valdez, I've been pretty impressed with how Hanwha is playing the first parts of this game so far. It's been a much better look than what we've seen in some of their last few series.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you've got a weak schedule. You say, okay, we're playing against, was it KT, right? We're playing against KT on Friday, but we've got Genji on Sunday. And we got to prepare a ton for that matchup. So you're kind of like, okay, we're good enough. We'll probably take down KT. But obviously, as we saw, they were not prepared enough for that. But perhaps they prepared a lot more here for this matchup instead. And they have definitely looked better compared to the match they showed against KT.
This is the first signs, by the way, in this game to talk about what we talked about was going to be a big problem of the 1-3-1 that Gen.G want to set up here. Again, the Cassante not as lethal, but the Aurelia a big problem here. And every time there's a lull state with Baron, Gen.G are getting the advantage around vision because of this Aurelia threat on sides. And Clid needs to be really quick on punish plays on this Aurelia. Look at them rotate up here now with this Ash Arrow in tow.
Yeah, look at this, a gank from the jungler in the bottom lane at this point in the game as they're trying to get on top of Chovy. Chovy's like, what the hell are you doing? I am so lethal. You put it best, Wolf, as Kingen is just dying, and now they're going to use everything onto Chovy. They should eventually take him down now, as they have many members. Kingen actually got away from this, as it's a nice read from Gen.G. There's not a lot of Baron pressure right now from Half-Life Esports, so they try to go for a kill onto Kingen. Didn't quite pan out, but they do push him out.
They push him out here, and we do see Hayes comes over. Could try to look for the snipe. He's going for it.
Okay. Little hopperoonie as some vision comes in with the blue trinket. Hey! Snipes him! Oh, man!
That's my Hayes. There we go.
That one really paid off, Wolf.
Yeah, there's the star power shining through. Chronicler's jumping out of his seat over there on the space, no doubt. And
wow.
that was a risky play in terms of committing your ultimate here, but it pays off big time. Like the Gnar gank was a success at the end of the day, and now they're gonna push this mid turret. So much damage here.
Yeah. The Eclipse finished for Paze. He's got so much lethality and kill pressure. Even onto the Gnar, who does not have a lot of tanky stats at this point, with the build he has gone for. And it just, as we both said, pays off.
Yeah.
And we're going to be saying that a lot more, I think, in this season.
Otherwise, you know, the top collapse onto Chovy was what I was really feeling like needed to happen quickly. It needed to be very swift, and it could have been a lot more coordinated, but Life got the job done in the end and did shut him down, but it was at the cost of Life, who did not actually have his Crystal Arrow. I thought with his movement there, he definitely would have had it, but it was actually about maybe 10 seconds or so away. So Chovy just assassinates him first and pulls all of those resources. Meanwhile, they get that turret bottom side and Kingen. Although not as cleanly as they would have liked, but they still got him in the end. Pace picks up the kill. Could have been worse again for Hanwha Life here, but Gen.G just have so much control over sides, and you could see it on the objective vision. Now they focused on bottom side with the Drake spawner. The Drake spawn time kind of ticking down. They have set up here, and Hanwha Life on the wrong side of the map. This could get nasty.
Yeah, Maokai ultimate just to push them away as Darn is looking for the engage, and a couple of them are bunched up in Jovi's, but Mega Gnar does come through. Kingen's getting a nice knock-up, but the stopwatch is going to buy so much time for Chovy. Can he survive, though? As over the wall, Viper and Zeka are just putting so much damage as they do eventually take down Chovy, but it is traded for the Half-Life Esports jungler.
It's like Doran's
Life, where are you going? Well, he's just dead. Doran just going to pick up a free kill, as Life has just kind of been food so far.
I think Life wanted to come over here and try to set up some vision for potentially a steal, but I think he forgot that Clid was dead. I'm not entirely sure what was going on with that, just trying to clear some extra vision, but it's a second Chemtech Drake here for Gen.G. It's not a very critical objective. Just take your trade and walk out. As, yeah, a sniper on the hunt.
Mom, get the camera.
Oof! Oh, and Viper just a second too late. This fight, this aggressive play from Clid, really gives Gen.G an angle here. Look at where Doran gets to push over here, and this is without Heimer turrets. Kingen saves the play here with that Gnar, because he TPs in with Mega Gnar and buys enough time. And look at the Viper and Zeka in this fight, just untouched. Yeah. They have the range advantage here because it's a 2 melee comp here, no range mid. Chovy's in stopwatch, doesn't do any damage. And Gen.G still do so well with the ultimate coming up from Delight, some turrets he places there in the back, because that's their range damage right now is Heimer turrets.
Yeah.
And then Life just walks up. And it's a bit puzzling, but he will be punished. And Gen.G already win the exchange because they grab Drake, but that's just a gift for Doran here, his first kill of the game.
Yeah, it's just a little treat, you know. Sante getting a bit hungry at this point in the game, so it's just a little snackaroo. And yeah, Gen.G, they didn't necessarily have to take that fight, as we talked about. Okay, Peanuts standing on a ward, but they're just so tanky at this point. They didn't have to take that fight, but they kind of forced it because they feel confident, they're very far ahead, and they wanted to put on pressure before the Drake, so they just pulled the trigger. And it kind of works out for them as now they're setting up position here on the Baron. As there's not a lot of vision now for the side of Hanwha Life Esports on this objective.
Clid, where are you going? Very risky flank angle here to try to catch somebody. He will get away with it.
Somebody's got to get in there and get some vision. So it's going to be Clid.
Very risky, but he gets away with it. Zeka coming down here to catch this wave. There's just so much pressure on the map. He does have TP, but this could be Genji just pulling the trigger on Baron. If he teleports in, not that he has a ward to teleport to, he's gonna lose so much time here, and he's so vulnerable. If they identify the angle he's taking.
Yeah. The turn here from Genji, pretty excellent. When you do have the Maokai and the Cassante for engage, as well as the Aurelia. There is the Nature's Grasp coming out over the wall as Doran is just zoning them away, and Jin is going to get the Baron, as this is a very broken fight. Kingen and Clid, again, just left to the wolves, as Toby and Doran are just hunting this squishy backline. What is going on here? They're just left out to dry, as Hanwha Life are literally being hunted for food right now. Toby looking for the second kill, won't get it. Life once again, a tasty snack for the Cassante. And Genji just gonna rip them to shreds.
Yeah, it was basically unwinnable. Chovy and Peanut up here at the front. Peanut gonna tank this turret with no minions. It doesn't really take damage, but here come the Baron buff. The minions, the TP, actually gonna get some serious value here. For Doran showing up, but also for the turret. So many of these minions just going to crash through, and this may just simply be Genji ending the game. No vision whatsoever for Hanwha Life Esports, no map control.
And they just cannot do damage to this front line of Genji at this point in time. Big Gnar ultimate into the wall. It's going to buy a lot of time here for Hanwha Life Esports, as maybe Genji have overstepped their bounds, and it looks like they're going to take that turret and take it a bit slower after that one. So here comes something onto, okay, well, they're not going to get the kill onto Chovy.
So unfortunate that the Void Staff Victor actually dies early in this fight. With him surviving, potentially they could have actually done a lot more damage there and actually chased harder. Clid wants more. Be careful about this. There's no follow-up for you. Ashe is trying to defend top. Ashe support, trying to defend.
TP'd back in the top lane. They're just keeping the pressure up as, oh boy. Now Clid might be left out to dry himself, as in goes the Maokai, pays even.
This
the build he goes for, just going to kill the Sejuani.
This is an example of what we've been talking about Hanwha Life Esports not finding their footing in terms of coordination, as Viper and Life have to defend that top push. They see the teleport coming through from Chovy. Clid's on the wrong side. This fight is just a wash because there's no vision. The guess on the double go into the pit here is just two sacrifices from Clid and Kingen, hoping to get a steal. And the rest of the fight, where the rest of Hanwha Life Esports are split away from their front line, is a wash. There is no hope, there's no chance. You sacrifice these three players, hoping for the double steal combo there. You fail that, you lose the bottom side of the fight. FaZe clears the minions. I missed that part the first time around.
I love that from Jonas Strong. And like, yeah, we already won this fight.
This is really good time buy here for Kingen, who's had a great game. Like, I think he's had a few moments here where he's bought time and is trying to buy some space for his ranged damage dealers to actually chase these players back, but he's unsuccessful. Clid dying after this while Life is defending is really the point that I want to focus on most, because there's clearly a disconnect between Clid. It's like, we got to punish them, they're retreating, we push them back, I want to catch them, we got to force them, and Life is like, dude, I'm on the other side of the map, I'm trying to defend this Aurelia, he might all-in me and kill me, I need you to come back here. And then Genji realized Life is top, they see Viper, and then they just turn and kill Clid. Why are you out here on your own? And it's a desperate situation, it's a desperate game, and Genji will punish you if you're indecisive, they will punish you if you're not on the same page.
Genji maybe seeing the tier list that Wolf made and got a little bit angry. They came out to punish today. This is not...
I put them in A tier, okay? They're just one step behind.
But it wasn't S. Wasn't good enough. And yeah, I mean, they're not holding back from this one. They look extremely comfortable in this lead that they do have for themselves.
And individually, you know, Valdez, it's been a great game for some of these players. Kingen's had individually a great game on his own. I feel like Zeka's laning phase and how he's played these team fights, great game on his own.
Yeah, they're just not a team yet.
Yeah.
Hanwha Life Esports needs some time as they are coming forward. They do get the kill onto Heimerdinger, as it doesn't seem like Genji really cared here, as Doran are going over the wall and Zeka's just gone. As that is a huge chunk of damage immediately just taken away from the side of Hanwha Life Esports. That is just so much of their late game damage, and now it's just they just don't have it anymore. As now the inhibitor is going to go down. As Genji's comp has punished, and it has played out very well for them. They do take the inhibitor down, but a little bit of a chase here from Meganar and the rest of HLE Esports. As King, and he really wants it here, as the house is going to hit Pays, and the ult is going to hit the two tanks, it looks like. Well, Jovi tanky enough. He is going to go down eventually, though, as Doran is being chipped away. Eventually will go down as well, and the kite here from the Ashe is enough, actually, for HLE Esports to push Genji off of them. Didn't necessarily need to stay that long.
Yeah, a little bit of green. Now run home and defend the Nexus turret, because there's some serious pressure there, as Pays was like juking and jiving with his Ghost Blade in that fight, trying to get back, but the rest of the front line did not appreciate how little resources they had to escape, as it's a lot of money given over to HLE Esports here in a very desperate situation. This was a really nice setup here. Good has the follow-up ult from the Ashe Arrow. This is the coordination we've been looking for, right? And Genji, instead of just saying, all right, let's back up and regroup, Doran goes over the wall here. He and Chovy are on a mission, 2v4, and it doesn't work out. Then they overstay here, and all the health bars are low from that early exchange, and Doran still wants to go out. Who needs a health bar? I got a Gargoyle Stone Plate, I got a shield from my dash. He wants to come back in. King grabs two, and they do try to force here. Pays, hoping he has enough damage, but this was a bit too far forward for the solo laners. And Peanut just gets left out here by Pays. There's nothing he can do.
Yeah, just gets kited out.
Now the situation is still doomed,
Yeah.
but hey, now there's at least one more chance. There's one more fight.
Okay.
Doran said no, there's not.
Doran's like, wait, this was pretty deep.
He's going to try to block them from coming over to Baron, and they have enough damage to do this now. Aurelia on 4 items, 3 of those being the sort of damage he wants, but sitting on 4 items is just 35-minute Baron going to disappear before our eyes.
The frozen heart, actually, I just noticed that. That's so nice into the squishy backline of HLE Esports. It's like, yeah, I dare you to try to do damage if you're not Victor.
And if you're Victor and you're in range to do damage to me, you're probably
dead.
Not happy about it.
Yeah. Again, there was never an answer for Chovy in the side lane. We didn't even really get to see that. I mean, Genji were just like, yeah, we'll just group up and bop them instead. So, good enough, I suppose. Genji trying to take out this open mid inhibitor now.
Can't kill Chovy, but now you have to kill him twice.
They are cutting this out. Chovy is going way too far as the Chaos Storm is on top of him. He's just eating so much of this damage. He's going to get pretty low there. And the snipe, 1370, is enough to take out Life. The poor support Ashe in this game is just eating it today.
Yeah, she really is.
As, Doran still going to be on the front line. He is incredibly tanky, especially with that shield coming through, as eventually King will go down, and now the squishy underbelly of this comp from HLE Esports, as he is going to get the GA away. But that is just about it. Chovy is not going to go down. That's going to be game number 1 here in 36 minutes for Genji. They had a lot of fun with this one, but they got the win in the end, and that's really what matters. 30 kills in total, as Genji will take game number 1.
There were some overextensions there at the end for Genji, but I think the reason why we saw that level of commitment, especially Doran's teleport down there to the bottom side, is they realized, hey, our comp is pretty heavy melee. Victor's starting to come really online. Like, he's been online for a while, but he's just been shut down by the composition and him getting so much pressure on him. He's got Aurelia on top of him all game long. But if we don't end this game now, we back again, and yes, they're down to 1 Nexus turret, those inhibitors come up, we might lose a 5v5. King's engages have been good. We don't want to let the game get to that state where suddenly we have a range damage problem. And you can see it in some of those pushes where they're trying to force things through, and after the engage goes up and King stops them, they're like, we don't have range damage, like, put those turrets down with Heimerdinger, we gotta push. And it did look like if the game went longer, there was a small chance that Hanwha could come back. So I like the decisiveness there from Genji to make sure, let's push early to end this game. Grab that Baron super fast. Doran TPs in, blocks them out. They Baron, they push with the minions. The minions in the game for them at that point with the amount of pressure they've already put onto that base. 1 Nexus turret remaining. And Genji, there was some fun moments in this game, but I think Peanut ruling the early game, truly, on the bottom side, shutting Viper and Life down with those 2 big ultimates.
Yeah. Clid just not able to step up. I think he was building like an abyssal mask at the end, maybe trying to get Zeka even farther ahead, but that just made him even squishier into the amount of AD that was on the side of Genji. And yeah, pretty straightforward one. Viper did a lot of damage, but it was not critical damage. As, guys, we have Genji in lead 1-0. We're going to have a little bit of a break and then go over to the space. We'll be right back.
집어넣으면서
호응 되면 나 일단 계속 걸까 볼게.
너 언제든지 걸어도 돼. 집만
빅토르 쪽 한번 봐볼게.
집만 살 생각하면서 해. 나 궁 되고 형 나오면 써도 될 듯?
잠깐만 나 좀 맞는다.
이거 궁 한번 써줄게. 한번 괜찮고.
빼야면 빼야겠다.
야 좀 안 좋다.
빼면서 봐. 괜찮아.
용 1분 애들 용으로 가자.
나이스. 잡았는데?
잡았는데?
아 이거 근데 되냐?
피업을 해야 되긴 하거든. 피업을.
피업 되면 해도 돼.
난 좋은데.
좀 봐달래? 진 노플인 거 생각하고.
네, 저 나르부터. 나르 높을.
나를 노플.
나르 W. 야, 빅토르 스턴 맞았고
잡았고 빅토르 잡을만해. 빅토르 노플. 이래 어차피 가인이야.
나 타워탱.
끝났다.
타워 터도 타워.
잡아도 돼.
죽이면 안 돼요?
죽여 그냥 죽여버려.
끝낼래 빨리.
하고 싶은 거 다 해.
야, 우리 천룡 때 못 싸웠겠다. 나이스.
선영 때
박세트.
내가 풀이 없어가지고 아마 졌을 때.
너 라인전 뭐가 제일 편해?
루시안이 벤 나오면 애쉬 하는 거고 찾으면 그냥 벤다
애쉬다 이러면은
뭐 할게요? 좋아?
아 그냥 카사딘 박을까? 카사딘 난 박아도 될 것 같다고 생각하니
보여줘봐.
카사딘 하자 그럼 일단 먼저
카사딘. 캐리 가자.
캐리 가자.
집중 좀 할게
나 공한번 날릴게. 그한테 안 맞을 때. 오오
맞았어.
묶였어.
먹었어.
나이스 할만해.
야, 할만해. 이거 타워 깨져. 라이즈 노플인데. 내가 간다. 레이톤. 혼자 용할게.
혼자 용하면 될 듯.
라이즈 공 왔고.
나 누가 물리면 안 돼. 이거 봐주면 안 가?
나도 올라갈게. 빨리다. 이거 카사트 아이어부터 천천히 해. 나만 가. 공 깔아줄게.
오케이 좋아요
맞아줘.
맞아줄게.
상대 다 묶여요.
천천히. 나만 가. 지렸죠.
좀만 집중해줘. 안 끝났어. 공한번 날렸어. 여기다 날렸어.
카사트 내려봐.
다음만 해.
야, 체리 볼 수 있나? 체리. 나이스. 펜타.
펜타 어디 갔어?
펜타.
이미 내가 먹어버렸어.
펜타 어디 갔어?
야 러시스트 시크릿 레버시스트 받아야 되는데.
울지
야,
잡아줘. 들어가. 첫 번째 받았죠. 나이스.
야야야.
나이스 지지
이제 눈빛으로 기선제압 한번 해야 될 것 같은데.
근데 기선제압 하다가 눈 맞으면 맞을 것 같은데요?
쟤네 근데 피지컬이 말이 안 된다. 야 못 이기겠다.
그냥 운동부예요. 저거는 말이 안 돼요.
얘들아 근데 내가 쟤네 지금 표정 봤거든? 쟤네 잠 안 깼다 아직. 야 무조건 이겼다 이거. 준비한 대로 잘하자이. 아니 깔끔하게 가보자 오늘.
이거 나 미드하고 아래 다이브도 되는데 어때?
야, 한ля선이다 이거. 얘네 다이브 하겠다.
안 죽어 우리 한.
받아볼게.
할게
데리볼게 데리. 야옹 잡았다.
옹 잡았어.
까비.
야, 나 개잘 컸다 얘들아. 나 캐리할게.
얘들아 우리 미드 적응 끝났다 파이팅
나 살짝 공부하고 내가.
얘네 이리 내려간다.
야 얘네 먼저 간다.
그냥 됐든?
나 못 싸워 지금.
야, 빼면서 해봐. 우리만 간다. 살기만 해봐.
야야
여기부터. 야야야. 천천히.
좀 애매하다. 에이지
미드 밀어.
미드 푸시 못할 수도.
얘들아 윌로 클로저 캐리 가보자.
가볼게. 가자 이거 싸움 보자. 아지를 볼게 나. 비 많이 알았어. 그래 미드 말해 미드 궁 쳤다. 궁 쳤다. 오너
할만한가?
이거 천천히 보자 이거. 야나 최대한 빼볼게.
한번 빼봐 일단.
빼봐.
안돼.
짱이 높이게 하자.
바로. 샷 지우면서 가죠. 렌즈 할게.
내가 바로 다시 가야 돼 얘들아. 집 가면 안 돼. 야 바로 스틸하다 볼게. 이거 천천히 봐주라.
7천, 4천, 3천, 2천, 1천.
아 천천히 빨리 말고 그냥 예쁘게 봐.
나 가만히 있어.
아리 봐줘.
베리 쪽.
제리. 야 지금 너 살살만 해봐. 빨리. 아지를 봐줘 아지로. 얘들아 아지를.
아지를 지키면서 해. 아지.
이게 많은데 아지르 쪽 버전에서? 아지르 쪽.
야나 이거 아지를 봐줄 수 있어? 아지를 야 빼봐. 때려봐. 나이스. 끝낼 수 있어. 아니 못 끝낼 수 있어.
아니야 찍혀봐.
가볼게.
아 끝날래나?
끝나겠다. 아니야 잠깐 내가 막아줄게 형님들. 기다려 나 믿어? 5초?
할수 있으면 막아봐.
가보자.
보여줄게.
미친
기다려봐.
과학자 가보자.
3초. 나 2주만 본다. 보여줄게. 막았어. 형들 막았어.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to The Space. I'm Atlas, joined by Huni and Chronicler to break down what was actually a pretty decent game of League of Legends to start us off for our final day of Week 2 of LCK Spring 2023. Chronicler, you want to start us off with the draft?
Yeah, because overall, I actually really liked what we saw here in terms of creativity from Gen G, because going in on the Ashe first, giving over Ashe generally is considered a pretty bad idea, and we were kind of questioning the call from Gen G to go for Maokai Heimer in first rotation instead of going for the Ashe instead of the Heimer and then pick it up on the next rotation. But, as we're going to see in the highlights later as well, with the Jhin pickup, they were actually able to both reliably fight for prio outside of the early levels, and then more importantly, the Maokai Jhin combination was actually really big, shutting down the two immobile AD carries. They still had some issues fighting in prio, but overall, I think nice trap set by Gen G there.
I mean, for the second phase, is the Gen G, they pick it up the Irelia, especially after they picked up Victor, and I think the Victor we highlight as a red because I think that was a basically no good pick.
Yeah.
It's like, especially there was a good example from yesterday as well. It was a Leaf Sandbox versus Brion. The Brion picked up the Victor as soon as the closures lock it in Irelia instantly, which is like, it was really tough game, especially after Victor just make one mistake, he just lose complete whole silent pressure. It's like you can't even contest any object control in early game. Like that's what happened. Gen G just won one skirmish, they just rolled it over after.
Yep, and took a long time for Trophy to get online as well. Got those 2 kills, and it felt like that exactly happened kind of off the checklist. Let's jump into our first highlight though, the Peanut highlight reel.
Because this is why we saw the Ashe actually being given over, right? Because Gen G very clearly had a plan. Pace is Jhin, clearly very good, although if I see one more Maokai smash people out of a Jhin W, I swear it's happened too many times. And even in a situation like this where it doesn't end up working out, I really appreciate that Gen G very clearly is very aware that while the Ashe Varus has insane lane pressure and is still a threat with all the Ashe arrows that even in this game we saw, keeping them on the back foot and going for these long-range Jhin Maokai ult combos makes it very hard to play.
Yeah, I mean, basically, they weren't like stopping any, like, keep attacking like one thing. It's like they were just keep burning flash, even though it was not like, you know, meaningful, but still, like, they were keep using it, and then they have a better, like, wire control around it, and then they will be able to, like, in the later game, just help each other from the jungle and support and around the mid as well.
Yeah, and I actually kind of thought that Humble Life Esports were going to play a little bit more proactively in the early game around the pushing mid lane, right? Aurelia not going to beat Victor in the early stages, and we saw hints of that until Peanut comes down there for that first gank. Let's jump into our second